The evening sky was painted in shades of orange and red. Soft light touched the tall silver trees that surrounded the edge of the human colony. On planet Verta 9, Evan walked alone on the forest path, his backpack heavy with tools and his mind full of quiet thoughts. He was an engineer, a simple man who liked silence more than crowds. He came here every weekend to test his machines and fix broken drones. The colony was safe, but the forest had secrets, strange lights, strange sounds, and sometimes things that watched from the shadows. That evening, as the wind changed, Evan heard something unusual. It was a small sound, soft but sharp, like a cry or a whimper. He stopped walking and listened again. There it was, a tiny, trembling cry. Coming from behind the trees, it wasn't human, and it wasn't any animal he knew. Curious and a little afraid, Evan followed the sound, pushing through glowing leaves that brushed against his jacket. The sound grew louder, more desperate. Finally, he reached a small clearing filled with blue mist. In the middle of it lay a small creature, golden fur, shining eyes and a long tail that shimmered like light on water. It was no normal fox. It looked scared, its paw caught under a fallen branch. Evan slowly knelt down, whispering softly, "Hey there, little one. It's okay." The creature stared at him with eyes that looked almost human, full of fear and hope. He lifted the branch and freed it, but as soon as he touched its fur, his wrist communicator blinked and went dead. Every light on his gear flickered and a strange hum filled the air. The creature tilted its head and made a soft sound, as if saying thank you. Evan smiled nervously and looked around. The forest had grown too quiet. Even the wind had stopped moving. He felt something, and a presence heavy and cold. Watching him from the darkness, he whispered, "It's all right. I'll get you home." Though he had no idea what home meant for this strange little being, he picked the fox kit up carefully. Wrapping it in his jacket, its body was warm, almost glowing with golden light as he turned to leave. A shadow moved between the trees, tall and quick. Evan froze, his heart beating hard. Something was out there, and it was looking for this creature. He hurried back toward the colony, but the path seemed different. Every turn looked wrong, as if the forest itself was changing. Branches reached out like hands, and glowing eyes blinked in the dark. The fox kit trembled in his arms. Letting out small cries, Evan whispered, "Shh, it's okay." Though he wasn't sure of it himself, suddenly his comm device came back to life. But the signal was strange. A voice, female, smooth and cold, came through the static. "Return my daughter, human," the voice said, "or I will come for you myself." Evan stopped walking. His blood running cold, he looked down at the fox kit, whose golden eyes now glowed brighter. "Daughter?" he whispered, confused. But the voice was gone, replaced by silence and the sound of his heartbeat. He didn't know who she was or how she spoke through a dead communicator. He only knew one thing. This small creature wasn't just lost. She was wanted, and by someone powerful. As night fell, the sky above the trees began to glow with faint red lights. Drones, not human drones, moved through the mist. Searching, scanning. Evan crouched behind a large rock. Holding the fox kit close, he could hear the hum of energy weapons and strange mechanical clicks. Whoever was looking for her wasn't human. He waited until the lights passed. His breath shaking, the fox kit looked up at him, her tiny paw resting on his hand. In that moment, something strange happened. Evan saw an image flash in his mind. A tall figure with silver fur and eyes of fire. Calling out into the night, it was her. The voice from the comm, searching, desperate, angry. Evan gasped and looked around, but there was nothing there. Only the echo of that voice, soft but strong. "Return my daughter," it whispered again inside his head. Evan didn't move, didn't speak. He just held the little fox tighter, knowing this was no ordinary night. He had found something rare, something forbidden, and now he was part of a story far bigger than he could imagine. The next morning began with a strange silence. The forest that once sang with life now felt empty. Evan opened his eyes to a dim golden light leaking through the trees. The small fox kit slept beside him, curled up against his chest, glowing softly like a tiny sun. For a moment, he thought it had all been a dream, but the broken comm device on his wrist reminded him it was real, and so did the voice still echoing in his mind. "Return my daughter, human." He stood up slowly. Brushing the dirt from his jacket, the air felt heavy, charged with energy like before a storm. He looked up at the sky and froze. A massive shadow was moving above the clouds. It wasn't a ship like the humans used, it was alive with light, flowing like water and humming like 1,000 whispers. The people in the colony called such things sky spirits. But Evan knew now this was something else. Something that had come for him. He started walking back toward the colony walls. The fox kit stirred and opened her golden eyes, watching the sky with quiet fear. "It's all right," Evan whispered, though he didn't believe it. When he reached the colony gate, the guards were already on alert. Soldiers stood in formation, weapons aimed upward. A voice echoed through the loudspeakers. "All citizens remain indoors, unidentified craft approaching." Evan slipped inside, hiding the small creature under his coat. He didn't know what they would do if they saw her. Humans feared what they didn't understand, and this creature was pure mystery. The ground trembled and the sky turned silver. The huge ship descended through the clouds, surrounded by glowing rings of light. Every camera, every scanner in the colony failed at once. Lights flickered, screens went black, and silence followed. Then came a deep sound. Like thunder rolling across metal, the ship stopped above the forest. Motionless, it was waiting, watching, searching. Evan's communicator blinked back to life. The same female voice returned, clearer now, softer but colder. "You have something that belongs to me," she said, Evan whispered. "I'm trying to understand who you are." The voice paused, then replied, "I am Leora, Queen of the Volpani, mother of the one you hold." Evan's knees almost gave out. The word queen echoed in his mind like a storm. Before he could speak again, alarm screamed. The skyship opened, and something shot downward, and smaller crafts, glowing red and black. They weren't here to talk. The soldiers opened fire and the air filled with burning light. Evan ran for cover as explosions rocked the ground. The fox kit cried softly and the sound pierced his heart. He could feel her fear like it was his own. He whispered, "I'll protect you, no matter what." A group of hunters landed near the colony walls. They were not human. Tall, armored, half machine, half beast, their eyes glowed red. Scanning everything, Evan hid behind a crashed drone. Holding the fox kit close, one of the hunters turned its head in his direction. It sniffed the air and started walking toward him. Its metal claws cut deep marks into the soil with each step. Evan's breath froze. He reached for a small EMP grenade from his belt, a last resort tool. He pressed the button and threw it. A flash of blue light filled the air, and the hunter's armor sparked and shut down. It fell to its knees, letting out a mechanical roar before collapsing. Evan didn't wait. He ran toward the woods again, away from the colony and away from the soldiers. Bullets and plasma bolts cut through the trees behind him. He stumbled but didn't stop. The fox kit looked at him, her small eyes glowing brighter. Suddenly, a vision struck his mind. Images, memories, emotions not his own. He saw a world made of crystal forests, cities floating in light, and a tall figure standing alone on a throne of stars. He heard her voice again, clearer than ever. "You saved my daughter," she said. "For that, I owe you a life." The vision faded. Leaving him gasping for air, he fell to his knees, trembling. The ship above moved slowly, its lights dimming. The red hunters stopped attacking, standing motionless like statues. Evan looked up, still holding the kit. "Are you doing this?" he whispered. The fox kit tilted her head, and for the first time Evan heard a soft voice inside his own mind. "Mother is watching." A chill ran down his spine. He stood up again, looking toward the glowing sky. Somewhere up there, that queen, that mysterious being, was watching his every move. And now she knew his name, now she knew his face. And she was coming, not to destroy him, but for something far stranger. Something even he could not yet imagine. The night sky glowed with silver fire. Evan stood in the dark forest, his heart beating fast. Above him, the giant ship hung like a silent moon. The fox kit slept in his arms, breathing softly, her golden fur shining through the mist. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know if he had saved her life, or stolen her from something greater. The voice of the queen still echoed in his mind, calm, strong, and full of power. Then, the forest lights began to move one by one. The trees shimmered as if touched by invisible hands. Evan stepped back, watching in awe. A wave of golden mist rolled toward him, bending the grass and whispering through the leaves. From within that mist a figure appeared, tall, graceful, and glowing with silver light. Her eyes burned like twin stars, deep, knowing and ancient. She wore armor made of living light, flowing around her like water. And when she spoke, her voice carried both warmth and thunder. "I am Leora, queen of the Vulpini," she said. "And you, human, hold my heart's most precious thing." Evan froze. Unable to speak, he looked at her face, beautiful yet strange. Part human, part fox. Her ears soft and her movements smooth like a dance. He gently placed the small fox kid on the ground. The little one ran to Leora, crying out in a soft, happy sound. Leora knelt and touched her child, and for a moment her hard eyes softened. A mother's love crossed the air between them. Then she looked up at Evan. "You saved her," she said quietly. "You protected her when no one else would." Evan nodded slowly. "I couldn't just leave her," he said. She was scared, hurt. Leora studied him, her gaze deep and unblinking. She stepped closer, and the air between them shimmered with energy. When she spoke again, her voice dropped to a whisper. "Humans do not come into these woods alone," she said. "You knew the danger." Evan gave a small smile. "Maybe I was just lucky." Leora's eyes narrowed slightly. "No, not lucky, and something more." She circled him slowly, like a curious spirit. Her energy brushed against him, warm but sharp. Evan felt a strange pull inside, not fear, but connection. It was as if his soul recognized hers, though he had never seen her before. Leora stopped and looked into his eyes. "There is something inside you," she said. "Something not quite human." Evan frowned. "What do you mean?" Leora raised her hand, her fingers glowing with golden light. She touched his chest, and a wave of warmth shot through his body. Images flashed in his mind. Humans standing beside the Vulpani in ancient times, building cities together under twin suns, then war, fire, and silence. When he opened his eyes, Leora looked shocked. "It cannot be," she whispered. "You carry the old bond, the blood of those who once walked with my kind." Evan stepped back, confused. "I'm just an engineer," he said. "Nothing special." Leora smiled faintly, a soft curve of her lips that made his heart jump. "Nothing special?" She said, "You saved a royal child and faced my hunters alone." Her tone changed, gentler now. "Do you know what that means in my world?" Evan shook his head. "In your world," she continued, "when one saves the life of royal blood, their spirit becomes tied to the family forever." Evan blinked, not understanding. "Tied?" he asked. Leora stepped closer again, her voice low and steady. "Yes, bound by fate," she said. "And by law. My law." The forest grew silent, even the wind stopped moving. Leora looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You have changed the path of destiny," she said softly. "And now, your name will be written in our history." Evan swallowed hard, not knowing what to say. He looked down at the fox kid playing at their feet. She looked up at him, eyes glowing with innocent trust. He smiled faintly. "I only did what anyone would." Leora shook her head slowly. "No, human," she said. "Not everyone would face death for a stranger." Then she looked toward the sky. Her ship pulsed with golden light. Calling her back, she turned to him one last time. "I must return to my people," she said, "but this is not the end." She paused, her eyes soft now, her voice almost a whisper. "You have saved my daughter," she said, "and in doing so, you have awakened something I thought long lost." Evan tilted his head. "What's that?" Leora's lips curved in a small, sad smile. "Hope," she said simply, as she stepped into the light. Her form began to fade. Evan felt the world spin, his thoughts drowning in wonder. The forest lights dimmed and she was gone, but her words stayed in his heart. And as the fox kit looked up at him, he realized something had changed forever, because now, somewhere among the stars, a queen knew his name, and perhaps she would come back, and not as a stranger, but as something far more dangerous, something far more beautiful. The sun rose over the colony, but there was no peace in the air. Smoke drifted across the sky from the night's battle, and the people whispered about strange lights and monsters in the forest. The soldiers were everywhere, searching, questioning. Evan walked through the metal streets, keeping his head low. He had hidden the fox kit in an old storage room under his workshop. She slept quietly, glowing faintly like a warm ember in the dark. Evan couldn't stop thinking about Queen Leora, her eyes, her voice, the way she had looked at him as if she already knew his soul. Her words still echoed in his mind. "You carry the old bond." What did that mean? How could he, a simple human, share blood with her kind? He felt different now, his skin tingling with energy, his dreams full of strange visions, forests of crystal, cities made of light, people who looked like both fox and human, walking beside ancient stars. He turned on his lab scanner, trying to test his blood. The machine blinked red, then blue, then crashed completely. A low hum filled the air, and for a second, the lights in the room flickered. Evan looked at his reflection in the glass. His eyes glowed faintly, not brown, not green, but golden. Just like Leora's, he stepped back, shocked, whispering, "What's happening to me?" Before he could think further, the door burst open. 2 soldiers entered, their weapons raised. Evan Carver, one of them, barked. "You're under arrest for harboring alien life." Evan froze, his mind racing. He couldn't fight them. Not with the Fox kit here. They dragged him out, cuffed his hands, and took him to the command center. The colony governor stood there, a tall, cold man with a scar across his face. He slammed his fist on the table. "You brought something dangerous into this colony," he shouted. "An alien child, maybe a weapon," Evan tried to explain. "She's not dangerous. She was lost and scared." But they didn't listen. "Where is it?" the governor demanded. Evan stayed silent. They hit him across the face, pain flashing bright through his skull. Still, he said nothing. He would not betray that small life, not even to save his own. Suddenly the lights went out, the alarms screamed, and the walls shook as a powerful energy wave hit the building. Outside, the air turned gold and shadows moved like smoke. Soldiers ran for cover, shouting, "It's her! It's the Queen!" Evan lifted his head, blood on his lip, eyes wide. Through the shattered glass wall, he saw her, Leora, floating above the ground. Surrounded by fire and light, her eyes burned with fury, her voice booming like thunder. "You dare touch him?" she roared, her power shaking the earth itself. The soldiers fired, but their weapons melted in their hands. Leora raised her arm, and the air itself bent around her. Metal twisted, walls cracked, and every screen exploded. She walked through the chaos like a storm, until she stood before Evan. Her gaze softened instantly. "Did they hurt you?" she asked, her voice trembling with both anger and care. Evan shook his head weakly. "I'm fine." But his skin was burning, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. Leora looked closer, her expression changing to shock. "Your body, it's reacting," she whispered. She touched his chest lightly, and golden energy spread from her hand into him. It was warm, almost alive. Evan gasped as memories not his own filled his mind. He saw ancient humans standing beside the Volpani. Not as enemies, but as partners. They had shared knowledge, DNA, and energy, creating a rare bloodline that carried the power of both. Then he saw war, betrayal, and the end of that alliance. The Volpani disappeared into the stars, believing humans had destroyed their trust forever. When the vision ended, Evan fell to his knees. Leora caught him gently, her arms glowing with soft light. "You are not just human," she whispered. "You are a bridge between our worlds." Evan looked up at her, his voice weak but steady. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "I just wanted to help." Leora smiled sadly, brushing her fingers across his face. "Fate never asks," she said. "It only chooses." Outside, the soldiers regrouped, shouting orders. Leora looked at them with tired eyes. "I cannot fight them all," she said quietly. "Not without risking you." Evan stood, breathing hard. "Then don't fight, let's run." She looked at him, surprised by his courage. "You would leave your people for me?" she asked softly. Evan hesitated only for a moment, then nodded. "They're not my people anymore," he said. "Not if they can't see the truth." Leora's eyes glistened, her voice a whisper lost in the smoke. "Then I will protect you, even from your own kind." She wrapped her arms around him, and light exploded around them. The world bent and vanished. When Evan opened his eyes again, he was standing in a strange place. Glowing walls, soft music in the air. He was aboard the Queen's ship, surrounded by beauty beyond human imagination. Leora looked at him, her voice gentle now. "You are safe here," she said, "but your secret is no longer yours alone." Evan looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere deep inside, he knew the truth. He wasn't just a rescuer anymore. He was part of something ancient, something powerful, and somewhere between danger and destiny, he felt something new growing, a feeling he couldn't name yet, but it felt like love. The stars outside the window glowed like rivers of silver. Evan stood inside the Volpani ship, staring at the endless space stretching beyond the glass. He had never seen anything so beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The ship was alive. Its walls pulsed with light, its corridors hummed with quiet energy. Every part of it seemed to breathe like a living creature. It was not made by machines, but by something older, wiser. Queen Leora walked beside him, her long cloak flowing like light itself. Her presence filled the room, calm, powerful, magnetic. "Your people are preparing for war," she said softly, her golden eyes fixed on the stars. "They fear what they don't understand," Evan replied, his voice low. "And they always destroy what they fear." Leora turned to him, her gaze sharp but full of sadness. "I don't want blood," she said. "I want peace, miss, but peace requires trust. And trust is fragile." She waved her hand and the air changed, showing a holographic vision of the human colony below. Soldiers moved like ants, building defense walls, setting up turrets, preparing missiles. Above the colony floated human warships, cold, metallic and ready to strike. Evan clenched his fists. "They think you're an invader." Leora's voice dropped lower. "They are not wrong. I came here for my daughter. But now I cannot leave." Evan looked at her. Confused. "Why?" he asked. She met his eyes and her expression softened. "Because of you," she said simply. Evan's breath caught for a moment. He didn't know how to answer. He wanted to speak, but her voice filled the silence again. "You carry the bridge between our kinds," she said, "the ancient bond that once united us, and now they will hunt you for it." Before Evan could reply, the door opened and a small figure ran in. The fox kit glowing brighter than before, her fur almost white now. She leapt into Leora's arms, her tail swirling with sparks of golden light. Leora smiled faintly. "Her power is awakening," she whispered. "She feels everything, pain, hope, fear, and magnifies it." Evan watched the child closely. "So she can change emotions?" he asked. Leora nodded. "Yes, she is empathy made flesh. She can make others feel what she feels." Evan's mind raced. "If humans could feel what you feel, your pain, your love, maybe they would stop fighting." Leora tilted her head, intrigued. "You believe emotions can end war?" she asked. Evan smiled slightly. "Maybe not always, but it's a start." Leora stared at him, her eyes glowing softly. "Then we will try it your way," she said. Moments later, the ship began to move, its living body stretched and curved, diving through the clouds toward the human colony. The soldiers below panicked as the golden vessel descended, its light spreading across the sky like dawn. Inside the command room, the governor shouted orders, "Fire at will. Take it down before it lands." Missiles launched, burning the air. But before they could strike, a pulse of golden light expanded from the ship. Silent, soft and infinite, the explosion never came. The missiles froze mid-air, surrounded by shimmering light, then gently fell to the ground. People across the colony dropped their weapons, their eyes filled with strange emotion, sorrow, wonder, guilt. They began to cry without knowing why. The fox kit floated in the air between Leora and Evan, her eyes glowing like suns. Her power spread through every human heart. For a few moments they all felt what she felt. Love, warmth, safety, connection, but peace is fragile. From the human warship above, a voice crackled through the speakers. "This is Earth Command," the voice said, cold and cruel. "Capture the alien queen and the human traitor. Alive." Evan's stomach dropped. "Earth Command," he whispered. "They've been watching all along." Leora's eyes hardened. "They want her power," she said. "They will use her empathy as a weapon." Suddenly, the sky burned red. Dozens of black ships appeared from orbit, forming a cage of steel and fire around the Volpani vessel. Leora stood tall, her golden aura rising like fire. "They will not take her," she said. Evan stepped beside her, his heart racing. "Then they'll have to take both of us," he said. The ship shook as energy blasts rained down. The child screamed, and her light flared brighter, filling the entire sky. Every human ship stopped firing. Every soldier froze, their minds filled with visions and memories of home, family, love, pain. They dropped their weapons. Unable to fight anymore, Leora fell to her knees. Drained, Evan caught her, holding her close. "It's working," he said. They can feel her heart, but Leora's eyes filled with fear. "No," she whispered. "It's too strong. She can't control it." The ship's walls pulsed wildly, and the air trembled. Evan held the child tightly, whispering, "It's okay, it's okay." His voice was calm, filled with warmth, and slowly, the golden storm faded. The world grew quiet again. Leora looked up at him, her voice soft. "You calmed her," she said. "No one has ever done that, not even me." Evan smiled faintly. "Guess she trusts me." Leora's gaze lingered on him, full of unspoken emotion. Then she said, "Perhaps the universe has chosen you for more than just saving her life." Outside, the human fleet retreated for now, but in the shadows of space, Earth Command watched silently. A cold voice whispered through the dark, "Prepare the capture team. We'll take the human first." The stars burned quiet above the clouds. The Volpani ship floated in calm air, healing from battle, its golden skin pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Inside, Evan walked through the long corridors, his thoughts heavy. The air felt strange, too still, too quiet. Even the ship seemed to whisper a warning. Queen Leora stood by the main crystal window, her long hair glowing faintly in the soft light. She was staring into the distance where the human fleet had vanished. "They will return," she said softly. "Humans always return when they fail." Evan nodded. "They won't stop until they get what they want." Leora looked at him, her expression unreadable. "And what they want," she said, "is you." Evan frowned. "Me, why?" "Because of what you are," she replied. "You carry the ancient energy, the code they lost long ago." Evan ran a hand through his hair, confused and angry. "I didn't ask for any of this," he said. "I just wanted to help a lost child." Leora's voice softened. "And because you did, you changed everything." They were silent for a moment. The fox kit slept nearby, her tail curled around herself, glowing faintly. Leora looked down at her daughter and whispered, "She dreams of peace, but the universe loves conflict." Evan turned toward her, his eyes full of determination. "Then we'll fight for her peace," he said. Leora smiled faintly. "You sound like one of my warriors." Before Evan could answer, a voice called through the communicator. "Queen Leora," said one of her guards. "A human shuttle requests landing. They claim to carry a peace message from the colony." Leora hesitated, her golden eyes narrowing. "Let them come," she said. "But prepare the shields." Moments later, a small silver craft landed in the hangar bay. The air shimmered as the ramp opened and 2 human officers stepped out, hands raised to show peace. One of them was Commander Hale, a man Evan once worked with back on Earth. "Evan," Hale said with a friendly smile. "You're alive, thank God." Evan stared at him. Unsure, Hale looked around, pretending to be amazed. "This ship, it's incredible," he said. "We didn't come to fight. Earth Command wants to talk." Leora watched him carefully, her expression calm but sharp. "Humans do not speak with their hearts," she said quietly. "They speak with their traps." Evan turned to Hale. "What kind of peace message?" Hale smiled. "Just a meeting. They want to understand your new friends. Maybe even sign a treaty." Evan looked at Leora. "Maybe this could work," he said. "If they see we're not enemies." Leora's gaze softened on him. "If you believe this, I will trust your hope." The next morning, Evan boarded the small human shuttle with Hale. Leora stood by the airlock watching him with silent eyes. "If they betray you," she said, her voice low and trembling, "I will burn their ships to dust." Evan smiled gently. "Then I'll make sure they don't." He placed a hand over his heart, the Volpani sign of promise, and stepped into the shuttle. The flight was quiet, too quiet. Evan noticed the crew wasn't talking, their faces cold and distant. He turned to Hale. "Something's not right." Hale didn't answer. Then the door sealed with a hiss and gas filled the cabin. Evan coughed, reaching for his wrist device, but it was too late. The world went dark. When he woke, the air smelled of metal and chemicals. He was in a white room, strapped to a table, machines buzzing around him. Behind a glass wall stood men in uniforms with Earth Command symbols. One of them spoke through a speaker. "Subject 47E, he said. "Your DNA carries alien resonance and we will extract it." Evan struggled, shouting, "You can't do this." But they ignored him. Needles pierced his skin, and bright blue light surged through his veins. Pain tore through his body like fire. He screamed, his voice echoing through the room. Far away aboard her ship, Leora felt it, his pain. She gasped and fell to her knees. Clutching her chest, her eyes glowed with rage. "They took him," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They dared to take what is mine." Her guards tried to stop her, but she rose like a storm. "Prepare the warships," she commanded. We fly to the human base. In the human lab, alarms blared. Lights flickered as energy waves burst from Evan's body. The machines overloaded, sparks flying across the room. The scientist screamed and ran for cover. Evan's eyes opened, now glowing golden. A voice echoed in his mind, "Evan, I am coming." It was Leora, her presence flooding his heart with warmth. The door exploded inward. Leora entered, surrounded by light and fury. Her eyes burning with divine fire, she raised her hand, and every weapon melted into smoke. Guards dropped their guns, falling to their knees. She walked to the table and tore the metal restraints apart like paper. Evan looked up weakly, his voice trembling. "I only saved your daughter, not because of duty, but because she reminded me what love feels like." Leora froze. Tears shining in her eyes, she touched his face, whispering, "And I will never let you feel pain again." The golden light between them grew brighter, filling the room. Machines shattered, walls cracked, alarms screamed. The energy in Evan's blood awakened fully. Wings of pure plasma burst from his back. Spreading wide like flames, Leora stared in awe, whispering, "You have become what our legends spoke of, the Lightborn." Evan rose slowly, his eyes burning like twin suns. Behind him the world shook, and somewhere in the distance, a voice from Earth Command shouted, "Contain him, and now!" But it was already too late. Evan Carver was no longer just human. He was something new, something born from two worlds, human courage and alien light, and he was ready to fight for both. The air trembled with golden light. Evan hovered above the ruined lab, wings of plasma spreading behind him like fire from another world. His eyes burned bright and his voice echoed with power that wasn't human anymore. Below him, soldiers crawled back in fear, their weapons useless against the storm that surrounded him. Leora stood beside him, her armor shining like a second sun. Together they looked like the dawn and dusk standing side by side. Two worlds made flesh. "Leave now," Leora said, her voice calm but sharp like steel. "This is not your war anymore." But the Earth Command officers didn't move. They whispered into their radios, sending signals to ships above, and in moments, the sky filled with human warships, dark and endless, missiles aimed, lasers ready. The humans had come with everything they had. Evan looked at them, his heart heavy. "They don't understand," he said softly. "They think we're monsters." Leora stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm. "Then let them see the truth," she whispered. "Not through fear, through light." The Fox Kid appeared beside them, floating gently in the air, her body glowing pure white now. She looked at both of them with innocent, knowing eyes. Leora touched her daughter's forehead, and Evan felt the same warmth flow through him. The child's power began to rise, and not wild this time, but calm, steady, filled with love. A wave of emotion spread through the sky. Every soldier, every commander, every pilot in the fleet suddenly felt what Evan felt. The fear, the pain, but also the hope, the love, the connection that tied all living things together. Missiles lowered, engines powered down. The humans couldn't fight anymore. Some began to cry, others whispered, "What have we done?" The Queen and the human floated above them, bathed in light that crossed space and soul, but deep within the largest warship, a general refused to surrender. He slammed his fist on the control panel, shouting, "Fire everything, now!" The ship's core glowed red, preparing a blast powerful enough to destroy them all. Leora felt it instantly. "They will burn the planet to win," she whispered. Evan's eyes narrowed. "Not if I stop them." He flew upward, wings blazing like the sun. The storm followed him, golden and roaring. He reached the warship in seconds, his body glowing brighter than fire. Inside, the human stared in shock as his light broke through the hull. He landed in the control room, calm and steady. The general raised his weapon, shouting, "You're not human anymore." Evan looked at him, his voice soft but firm. "No," he said. "I'm something better. I'm what we were meant to be." He spread his wings and light filled the entire ship. The weapons melted, the engines stopped, and every monitor showed his glowing face. "Stop fighting," he said. "Look at what you're destroying. Our chance to be more than war." For the first time, the soldiers lowered their heads. No one fired, no one moved. The war ended not with an explosion, but with understanding. Outside, the sky calmed. The Volpani ships and the human fleets floated side by side in silence. Golden dust rained down from the clouds like soft snow. Leora landed beside Evan on the quiet ground. The Fox Kid in her arms, the people from both sides gathered slowly. watching the strange pair, a human and an alien queen standing together under two suns. Leora looked at him with a soft smile. "You have changed everything," she whispered. Evan looked back at her. His voice filled with warmth. "No," he said. "We did, together." She reached out her hand, and he took it, their fingers intertwined, glowing with shared light. The people watched as the sky shimmered, the symbol of peace spreading above them. Days later, under the twin moons of Verda 9, a ceremony was held. Humans and Volpani stood side by side for the first time in centuries. Leora wore a crown of starlight, and Evan stood beside her, dressed in white armor glowing faintly gold. The fox kit ran between them, laughing with joy, her fur sparkling in the moonlight. When they joined hands before the gathering, silence fell. Leora looked into his eyes, her voice soft but steady. "In my world," she said. "To bond hearts is to unite worlds," Evan smiled gently. "Then let's unite them." They leaned close, their foreheads touching, and light burst around them, golden, endless, alive. The people cheered. Humans and Volpani bowed together. The first true alliance between two species was born that night. But as the stars shimmered above, far away in the cold dark of space, a hidden signal pulsed from a distant satellite. "Experiment successful," a voice said through static. "Subject 47E achieved complete fusion. Begin Phase 2. The screen flickered and went dark. Somewhere beyond the edge of known space, unseen eyes were watching. The union of two worlds was not the end, it was only the beginning.